So this is the time we do it, this is where we do it, this is how we do it. Go up, get drunk, run around, but there'll be limits on it. It's a tragedy because, you know, Pentheus is so, he's supposed to be the uptight, paranoid, that they're all up having sex, and then he tries to insult Dionysus, and then he appears to his mother as if he's a cow, and she cuts his hair off
all the
in a
time.
frenzy.
Sit down,
And
buckle up,
that famous
and get ready
line
for
where
the Dan Bongino
Cadmus
Show.
says to Dionysus,
Yeah,
"Gods
so
are supposed to be
yesterday's
better
show
than
pissed
men.
off all the right
Shame on
people,
you.
and
You're not
that's
supposed to be like
great.
us."
That is spectacular. There's nothing I
So he's an
enjoy
Eastern
more than
god,
rage spot
supposedly, who
meltdowns
sweeps
telling
in
me,
with a new
oh my gosh, we're so
product
pissed off
for
and
Greece,
angry.
wine
I
and
need
alcohol,
you to
and
be pissed
says
off.
to
Well,
the
you
Greeks,
read
"You're
about it. It's
uptight,
true. These
and
guys,
you have to worship me.
You
If you
ever read
worship
One
me,
Flew
you
Over
give
the
me
Cuckoo's
honor,
Nest? You know
I
Nurse
will bring
Ratched?
pain
If
relief
Nurse
and
Ratched
joy
is
to
proud
your
of you
world
and loves
through
what you're
wine."
doing, you're probably doing it
Since
wrong.
often when you see
I
statuary
don't
has
want Nurse Ratched to like
vine
me.
leaves and clusters
My
of
entire
grapes,
goal right
and
now is to
because
get our compass true
the
north
Greeks
again,
were so paranoid
away
about
from the people
female
trying to pull
sexuality,
it
he's sexually
untrue
ambiguous.
south, okay?
And the Bacchae,
I
they're
want
almost
you to
talking
be
about his
pissed
old
off.
curled hair like he's gay or something.
That's the
In
goal.
some moments.
Of
But
course
he's,
you're going to be pissed off.
sometimes he looks effeminate.
Graham Allen texted me
But
about
he
coming
is
on the
worshipped
show
by
in a little bit.
women
Graham
who
Allen's
are
going to be
usually
here as our
confined
guest,
to
so
the
don't miss
house,
that.
married,
Graham
children,
Allen, thank you always for radio
stay,
show.
but
I
they're given
don't
an
give a
opportunity
shit
at
that you're
certain
pissed off.
festive
Actually, I do. I shouldn't
periods in
say
that
that. I
calendar year
want
to
you to
worship
be
him
mad.
and to let their hair down and
Someone
sing and
leaking
yell
out a
and
fake
dance
story
and
about
act
a
out of
raid
the
while
ordinary,
President
but
Trump was
apparently
overseas,
not to be
trying
completely
to
sexually
fix the world's
promiscuous
problems
as
is
is
such an
alleged
obvious
in the
op and
Bacchae.
scam
Dionysus
that
says
there's
that's not
no
what we
point in
do,
the show
but
if I'm not going to call it out.
apparently in Rome,
And the
especially,
fact
they
that the
did that.
rage
So
bod
who knows?
farms and the foreign
But
bod
he's the son of
farms
Zeus,
who are
and
involved
anytime
in
you
this
see the
shit
word
were all pissy about it,
D-I-O-S, it's
shows
genitive
you
in Greek
exactly
of the
who
word
they are.
Zeus.
They are no different
So
than two
Nisos,
bit
he was from the
leftists.
island,
And by the way,
mountain of
these
Nisa. I don't
leftists
know
out
where
there
that is,
are
actually. I
telling
don't
you
think
who
were
they
found.
are,
It must be
and
in
you
Thrace.
should listen to them.
So his
I'll
there is
show you a
also a
clip
word
right at the beginning of the
nuos
show,
in
but I have
Greek
some good news for you.
for offspring.
You know why
It's
it's
either the
Friday?
offspring of
It's Friday.
Zeus or
And
from the
everybody
mountain
loves
of
Friday.
Zeus.
You know why? Because the next
But,
day's Saturday. And most people don't have
He's
to work.
sometimes
To our
the
military
daughter,
heroes,
son
cops,
of
and firemen,
Persephone
and first
and Zeus.
responders
Sometimes
work
just Zeus
24/7,
stitched him in his
365 and
leg.
don't get a day off.
Kinda
God
like
bless
the
you on Police Week. You know I
head of
love you,
Zeus
man.
with Athena jumping out.
You know, I heard once at a speech.
But he has a conduit. He's a powerful
I
god
was
because
giving a
he's the
speech
son
in
of Zeus,
Alamogordo, New Mexico,
like so many gods.
and a lady was
You know,
a
you
spouse of a
mentioned
former
that
state trooper
he's
gets up. You know what she
got
said?
medicinal
She said the greatest sound in the
purposes.
world.
And I know that we don't have
Sound
planned
of
for
Velcro
this,
at night.
the god Asclepius, which
guys
if you go
get that?
to a
Tell me
lot
in
of
the
those
chat.
saint.
I know you law
I'm sorry, so
enforcement
yeah,
spouses know
could
what
you
that
say a little bit about Asclepius?
Velcro at
Since
night.
he, just for the
Sound of the
people,
body
he's
armor.
He's
the
a
god
steward,
of-
sometimes he's
Right.
the son of
Body
Apollo,
armor. So
but he
loud.
is
Velcro
a
super thick.
chthonic
them up.
god, so that
They don't mind.
symbol of American
Brings
medical
sound.
situation with a
Thank
staff
you.
with
All
a
those
snake.
who don't get
Snakes come out of the ground.
But most of us do have
He has
tomorrow
a
off.
temple
So
at
I've
Epidaurus, for
got just a
example.
small snippet
The
of
Asclepian.
one of the best
And there's
commencement
one, I
speeches
think,
I
a
think
big
I've
one
heard in
at
a long
Samos.
time. You may have seen it
Yeah, so
yesterday. It's worth your
The
time.
idea
whole
is
thing.
that there's certain
I can't play the whole
supernatural
thing because
powers
the
that
country
come out of the
singer Eric
ground, so you
Church
go into the
just,
temple of
man, gave
Asclepius,
a freaking banger of a
and
speech.
you,
He said something
whatever
really
your
good.
problem is.
And then
So
also
I've had
something
lung
that happened
cancer, so I
overseas
get a
yesterday. I
little
haven't seen
plastic
covered
piece
much,
of my
light
lung,
coverage.
clay.
And it's not, it
And
happens
can I
all the
hang
time.
up
It was
the
on
little
President
thing
Trump's
on
trip.
the
It got a
wall?
little bit of coverage, but
And then, or I
this
go to
happens
a
all the
little
time.
merchant and
I'll
say,
give
I
you
have
some
lung
behind the scenes
problems,
on
can you
that.
give me a
I don't want you
lung?
to sweat too
And
much.
then you hang it up and
Car
you
shield.
sacrifice, and
Hey, I
maybe
use my car for
I buy a
just
little
about
lamb,
everything.
cut its
I did it
throat,
all the time. It's like my traveling
pour the
office.
blood
When it
in the
breaks
ground
down,
for
it not only costs me money,
Asclepius,
but it
maybe
costs me time, and it's a
eat all the good
life.
stuff
I
and
don't want to
get
think
the
about it. I don't want
bones
to worry about that stuff.
to Asclepius and
When your
burn
car
them.
goes down,
Then
it's
I
not
go
just
into
like
the
it
temple,
throws everything off your entire
and
schedule.
I'm in
I've
a
had that
kind of a
moment,
hospital
you know,
with
you get
other
that strange
people,
sound,
and
and
then
the bell that goes off in
apparently
the car
the
turns into a
Asclepius
warning
comes
light,
up from the
which turns into a
ground.
bill. Suddenly you're
So
bracing for this bill you didn't plan
They
for.
may
That's
have
why
some
I'm
tricks
a
and
fan
things
of
where
Car
snakes
Shield.
come out of the
It's
foundation because
fantastic.
there's no
I love
vents
it. You
that
gotta be
come
prepared
out.
for this stuff. Having
And
that extra
then
protection takes a
vapors
lot of
come
stress
out.
out of owning a
And
car.
they burn certain
Cars are very
types of
expensive right now. There used to have a
incense
bumper,
or
cost you like $30
mushrooms
to
or
repair the
people-
bumper when I was a kid, the metal bumper. That's not it anymore. You scratch them up
theorize
for it's
what
like
was the
$3,000.
narcotic they used,
Car
and
Shield
then
offers
people go
low
into a
cost
trance.
month-to-month vehicle
Sometimes
protection
it's
plan,
alcohol
so
aided,
you're not locked
and
in.
then they pray to
They
the
partner with
priest of
ASE certified
Asclepius for
mechanics across
cure.
the country. They include
I
24/7
was at
roadside
Pergamum,
assistance,
and
courtesy
down
towing,
below
and
that
rental car
site,
options
there
at
is
no additional cost. It's really a
a
great deal.
medicinal
And the low
site
deductibles
that
really
and they
matter
had,
when something
I
big
believe,
goes
hot
wrong. As I told
baths
you,
as
nothing's
well
cheap on car
in
shield.
there.
They do.
Car Shield is over 20 years
And
of
remember,
experience,
this is
covers more than
separate
2
from
million vehicles,
the
holds a
Greek rational
96%
tradition. This is
customer
the
rating
folk
and an
medicine.
A+ rating from the
At the
Better
same time
Business
this is going on, there's the
Drive with zero
Hippocratic
worries thanks
corpus
to Car
of
Shield.
all
Car
these
Shield.
medical
Right now, Car
students where
Shield's
you can go
offering
today and look at it still. And then
20%
the
off with the code
Romanberg and Galen,
Bongino
and you look at
at
it and it says, if you have a
carshield.com/Bongino.
sore
Don't let
throat,
unexpected
in
breakdowns
5
day.
days if you
Get
see
covered
white
with Car Shield.
pustule, this is
Drive
this,
with
and you're gonna
confidence. Go to
die. Or,
carshield.com/Bongino.
and it's very up to
Use
date.
code
They do things
Bongino
like
for
rabies and
20% off.
everything.
Thank you, Car
But this
Shield,
was
fellas.
separate from the comic
Let's
book.
go.
This is a religious. This is
Macy,
sort of.
damn, why are you all dressed up?
Oh,
Now
when
people
my
are
son
reading the show.
was
That's dressed
on
up.
the baseball
He's
team,
gonna get a 10 on the scale
couple
today.
guys had
Nikki
sore
Fresh
arms,
65 in the chat.
and
Do we
I
have?
think
We
I
haven't
took
done
him
that.
to an
Nicole is not
orthopedic
made for
surgeon.
this. Jen,
But
she
one of the
is
parents
really
said, take him to a
excited.
brew
Got
hall.
the lovey-dovey eyes going on
And I
there,
said, a
Nicole.
brew hall.
Sorry,
It's
not available.
Spanish for
I know,
rich.
I get it. I
But
got a
not
special
really
event.
rich,
This is dressed
healer.
up.
And they
Outside
said,
of
yeah,
like
if you go
weddings or
to this
funerals,
town,
this is
I won't
like
mention the name
I
of
got
it,
a special event
she
I'm going
can
to later, so a lot going
recite
on.
incantations
So as I said,
and
and I don't wanna
burn
just-
incense and then
I
put
don't wanna
on
hammer
miraculous
too much, but all
gels
the
and
right people
salves
are pissed
and
off
give a
this year.
prayer.
Okay?
And so
Folks, I'm just not going to let it
that's
happen.
that
There's a lot of
Dionysus
sabotage
aspect.
going on.
Going to an
We've been
orthopedic
successful
surgeon is what
exposing it. And the
people in the
people
5th
behind it are
century
freaking out
often
because
did.
This is one of the biggest
The
audiences
educated
in the
people,
magazine.
perhaps.
And there's nothing they
And
can
so
do
these
about it.
hospitals
That
have
segment
both
where I
elements
just
to
lost it
it
on them yesterday
that
went
were
viral yesterday,
by
and I
these-
saw
And
the
they
pattern.
mix. So
I
finally,
could
if you
see
were
it
at
on
an
X. The rage
Asclepion,
spot meltdown,
when you prayed
all the internal
for
saboteurs doing their
deliverance,
best to
say,
make it go away.
from
You can't make it go away.
tuberculosis,
We won.
there would be a
W
person maybe
for the
who was
Dan
actually
Bongino
rational
show and the
come
Bongino
out
Army.
on,
We
as
won.
a priest of
I'm sorry
Asclepius
you had to
did
drop
but
an
then he would
L
treat
and
you
you
with
got smoked.
things that
I know
might
you
work.
guys can't live without me, but
All
we
right,
can live
Victor,
without
so
you.
let's go ahead and
I
take
know
a break
that
and then
hurts.
come back.
I
We'll
know
talk a
it
little bit
bothers
about
you that we
California
constantly, we're only
nonsense.
8 minutes into the show,
Stay
you
with
had
us and we'll be right back.
34,000 people here.
Since
I
the
know that
founding of
bothers you that a
America,
stadium full of
250
people are
years
listening
ago,
to us expose your
many
shit
things-
while you're hollowing into the abyss. I get it. W's in the chat. We won. We exposed you guys. You look like a bunch of buffoons. Now everybody knows it. And there's no backing down. There's doubling down. That's it. Dubs everywhere. We just keep racking up the dubs. The administration keeps racking up the dubs, and you keep dropping big time L's. And we're enjoying every minute of it. I
2
know it
years,
drives
that
you
is incriminating.
That's
And
good news.
it's been in the California government
So I saw
for
that.
50
That's-
years.
Yeah,
And
supervisor,
I saw this
mayor,
yesterday.
lieutenant governor,
Eric Church,
governor.
country singer. I got a newfound respect.
But
I always liked his music.
think about
Is
it.
Can you do me a favor, Josh?
$240 billion
Josh,
price
look this
tag
up.
for high-speed
That,
rail, $20 billion already
song,
wasted.
That compilation song, Morgan Wallen.
90% of our snow melt let out to
Folks
the
in the chat, help
ocean.
me out.
2 big refineries leave
MacArthur or
California,
something? They got
300,000
this-
people leaving a
MacArthur,
year.
right? Is Eric Church in that too? I think he is.
21%
He
of
is,
people
okay.
living below the poverty
Tim
line,
McGraw, it's a
40%
great
of
song.
people
MacArthur can't recommend it highly enough.
on
I got a
Medi-Cal,
newfound
50%
respect
of
for
the
Eric Church. He gives a commencement speech.
bursts
Here's
on
one of the parts
Medi-Cal,
I don't
25% are not
because
paying
it's
their
true.
power bill,
I've had
highest
a lot of
gas
drama in
prices
my
and
extended
taxes,
family over
highest
the years.
electricity,
And you always got to remember,
fifth
like,
highest
chips are down.
sales
A lot of those
tax when you
people
add
love
all
you.
local and regional
Probably
add-ons,
do.
and highest income tax, and yet the biggest deficit. And with all that, he's saying to himself,
String
"I've gotta
two
find
is
a
family.
solution
Okay,
for
look out at
California."
these bleachers.
A couple
look
years
around.
ago, I thought
Somewhere in
500
that
million
crowd
for illegal
is
alien
someone who
healthcare
has
would solve
loved
all
you
this problem. But I got a better idea. I think all of our inmates, especially those on death row, need iPads. I can get them for $800 or $900 each, and then they can just look at pornography all day. That would be a good thing to do. That would save California. That's how he thinks.
that's so crazy.
Yeah, he is. California is one of these places where if you came in 1965 or 70 and you saw all these state-of-the-art freeways and this California Water Project and Central Valley Project just established.
Yeah, when you
These
dig
brilliantly
into
engineered
a lot of their
aqueducts, 40
mindsets
reservoirs.
and what they
Went
actually
into San
say
Francisco was
and
immaculate.
make their decisions off of
Went
is
to Los
so
Angeles,
disgusting
Hollywood was booming,
and
90% of the
disturbing. It
world's.
doesn't even.
All these sports, great
It's hard to
sports
comprehend
arenas.
even for us.
People were well dressed, polite, And then you said, how would I ruin this? How could I destroy it so it would just be chaos? I think I would elect somebody in various capacities for 32 years, and I would raise taxes and then take the money and engage in the biggest welfare scandals in history, and I call it spread the wealth. And then I'd get a bunch of homeless, I'd shut down all the mental hospitals and put them all in the street. Then I wouldn't enforce any hygiene or laws about fornicating or injecting or defecating on the street. Then I think I would hire everybody by their race or gender, not merit. I'd make sure that all the government offices were unionized, and DMV and everybody, so that the unions had power, hospitals. I think I would just say we don't need any more freeways. So I'm going to double the population from 17 to 40, and we're still going to use the old 2 lanes in each direction I-5 for most of the state. Maybe 99 should have the law, but just 2 lanes in one direction.
You also said in that article that 99 is the deadliest freeway in America.
It is.
Wow.
It is for the amount of miles driven.
Wow.
Especially in that corridor between Tulare and Delano. That is really scary. And when you add 20-ton trucks being driven with people who did not pass a driver's license in English, it gets even scarier.
Well, let's turn then, since we're in California, to the governor race and the LA mayor race, and get your reflections in California on the governor's race. An Emerson College poll shows that Xavier Becerra is ahead for the Democrats now at 19%. So since Swalwell has gone out. And then I was just wondering your thoughts on, it seems like Spencer Pratt is really giving Karen Bass a run for her money. She won't even participate in the next debate.
I hate to say it, but I like both Chad Bianco and Steve Hill. But whoever is polling the highest, and I think that's Steve Hill, the other should drop out and consolidate that vote. Because if they don't, somebody like Tom Steyer or somebody's going to sneak in there, and they're going to neither Republican's going to win. Becerra's a joke. I mean, he gave an interview the other day, and he basically told the interviewer, "You can't ask mean questions." It was pathetic. He was a disaster. I think he was HHS secretary. It was a complete disaster, and he would be worse than No, he wouldn't be worse than Newsom. He would be as bad as Newsom. Hilton would be good. I mean, everything he said is exactly what you need to do. The only problem he would have is he has supermajorities in the legislature, and he's got a bunch of left-wing judges that everything he would do, they would declare unconstitutional. But it would be a start. As far as the mayor, Karen Bass can't debate, so she's not going to debate. And she basically said to Spencer Pratt, I have all the SEIE unions, and I have all the teachers union money, and I have all the Hollywood movie money. And they don't care what LA is like. They just want to get a big salary that's guaranteed income, and the Hollywood people are wealthy anyway. So they don't care. They like to hear good things, that I'm helping the homeless, and I'm helping this group and that. So that's her whole, I'm just going to see you who don't want to be until election day. And he's got a difficulty because he's trying to say, he has to be careful of what he says. So he looks at the Palisades and he can't quite figure out, he can figure out, he's a very bright guy, that they burned it down. I mean, they let it burn. And they knew it was going to burn because they had these high Santa Ana January dry winds, and they had nuts that were trying to imitate Luigi Mangione. And the creed of LA and California is if somebody's wealthy, let's just kill them or destroy them. And these are the most beautiful homes in the state. And it was dry, so if you really wanted to burn down the Palisades, you would say the following: I'm going to make it illegal to clean your brush next to your house. When the winds get really, really high and it's been not yet very much water, I want to make sure the mayor goes to Uganda for a wedding and she's not around. Now, the vice mayor, I want him to phone in a bomb threat, so he's not around. Of course, he did, and they gave him no jail time at all. He was DEI, black guy. And then I want the water and power director, I think her name was Quiones, who came from PG&E, who now is trying to help the grid in Puerto Rico. Pay her $700,000 and just say, we hired the first Latina CEO of our water and power, and we're not going to check to see if the reservoirs are empty or the hydrants don't work. And then I will hire the fire chief. And I want to make sure that she's DEI, so she's going to be LGBTQ+, and she's going to cut videos with everybody about it's LGBTQ+, and she's not going to worry that there's not all the hydrants working, or that Karen Bass cut the fire budget. And so when the fire hits, I'm going to have people that are running the fire department, that are running the water supply, that are running the municipal government, and the mayor either not be there in residence at the fire hazard peak of the season, or they were hired for reasons other than what they're supposed to be doing. And that's what she did. That's what happened. And they voted for that. People forget that DEI is one of the most pernicious tribal pre-civilizational protocols there is. You're hiring people on their superficial appearance or their gender or their sexual orientation, and you're hiring them over people that often are, according to their own standards of testing or education or whatever the criteria, are better qualified. And you're doing that for some utopian idea of fairness that's not really going to apply to you. And there's once you do that and give somebody that exemption, that's not the beginning. That's the beginning. It's not the end, because then you're telling them you were hired for your race or your nationality or your gender or your sexual orientation, and because you were given that job over someone who was better qualified, we're going to continue to protect you against people who are better qualified. So if you don't have water in the reservoir, or the hydrants don't work, or the brush is being burned down because of you, anybody who says that's a bigot. Sorry. Although they started ending up fighting among themselves. So Karen Bass thought she could save her candidacy by firing the fire chief, who was better than Karen Bass, but terrible. And then they thought they could save the water and power by farming her off to Puerto Rico, I guess. Maybe she can do for Puerto Rico what she did for LA.
I guess. Well, Victor, we're at the end of our show, and we have some comments from your viewers of Jack and your podcast. And here's what they say. Short ones are CUNY Broughton 9318 says, absolutely love both of you finishing the session honoring your mothers so beautifully and respectfully. Blessings to Jack and Victor. And Grand 3241 says, I was a Democrat for 40 years. I'm sorry to admit. And the biggest difference between them and Republicans have no problem challenging ideas and leaders if we don't agree with them. That is healthy for a republic. And then finally, Lynette Polka 2775. And this is a little longer. She says, Victor, your Pierce Morgan experience reminds me of the great Douglas Murray being ambushed by Joe Rogan when Douglas was surprised to find he shared the show with Dave Smith. It doesn't matter how correct you are, how wise or well-spoken. When your opposition won't think or listen, there's not much you can do. So much love and gratitude for your dedication to the truth and for sharing it with us. That was so, very nice.
Yeah, it's very well written. It's so true. When somebody is debating you and he says, bombing, we've done all this illegal bombing, and 1/3 of the German people were resisting Hitler till we bombed them. I thought, wow, this guy is really ignorant. We bombed in April of 1942, we started, and the only reason people ever resisted Hitler was because he was losing, and they didn't even do it actively. There was no, like, 100,000 troops in France stopped the whole French resistance. So there was never any widespread. The only resistance was Operation Valkyrie and a few officers, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 sympathizers in a nation of 80 million. So that was the most ignorant thing I'd ever heard, that the resistance was crushed in Germany because we started bombing and everybody became empathetic. That is, I don't know, but that was what the whole interview was like. So anyway, be sure to take a look at the Counter-Revolution, the Fall and Rise of
Donald Trump. Victor's new book will be out in September, I believe.
September 8th. You can
Yes.
buy it now. I want to apologize today. I had a tooth implant yesterday, and when you extract the tooth, you put the bovine or other types of grafts, and then you're supposed to do it in 3 or 4 months where it's still flexible, but I was operated on. I couldn't do anything for 3 months, so it was 6.5 months, and it was hard as a rock. So the dentist was quite skilled, but he had to kind of jackhammer a hole in. So I'm kind of sore today with my jaw,
Okay.
and I'm
We'll
hoarse.
forgive you on that. And then just one more thing, though, in addition to your new book on Trump, you talked a lot about Thucydides, and I know you're researching. Right? Do you have any place where you have done a series of lectures that would help people who would want to read the book, The Peloponnesian War by Thucydides? Because it reads like a chronicle, so it's
Yes.
very hard to...
If you buy it's called the Landmark Thucydides, and it's the best-selling translation of Thucydides. I wrote the introduction to it, and I explain about how he wrote it, why he wrote it, what are the problems in understanding it, how it compares to Herodotus. So I wrote the introduction 25 years ago.
Yeah, that helps with the reading of it.
And I helped
Yeah.
the editor find the Free Press, and my agent helped.
Yeah.
So I was instrumental. And I also wrote one of the endnotes. There's kind of an appendices about certain aspects of military affairs, political. I wrote one of those.
I'm surprised
then
Hillsdale has
I also wrote a book called A War Like No Other, a book on the Peloponnesian War, in which I talk briefly about Thucydides. If you're really interested in something that's really boring, if you go to classical antiquity about 35 years ago, I wrote an article on how Thucydides uses numbers in Greek, and that was a best-selling article. No, actually, I think 2 people read it.
Yes, but yeah, also just so your audience knows, the Thucydides Peloponnesian War has been a long time curiosity of this big war between Athens and Sparta. Even Thomas Hobbes in the 17th century translated it, so it's been something that military historians in particular have been
Because it's
curious
not
about.
just a history, it's a philosophy. He doesn't just say the Spartans invaded in 431. He says why they invaded and how they invaded and whether it was smart or stupid. So he has the Melian dialogue where he talks about whether might makes right. Is that right? Or the Corcyraean stasis, where people go into collective hysteria and kill people and destroy institutions. Things like that. Or the Sicilian expedition, a misadventure that destroys Athens' ability to win the war, probably.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on this weekend, and thank you, Victor, for all the wisdom. This is Sammy Wink and Victor Davis Hanson, and we're signing off.
because, Mr. President, as you well know, because I'm about to describe the good people of West Virginia as well as the good people of Louisiana and many other states. Most Americans get up every day, they go to work, they obey the law, they try to teach their children values, they try to do the right thing by their children, and they try to put aside a little money for retirement. I just described millions of moms and dads across your state and mine, all across America. But unfortunately, many moms and dads, when they lie down to sleep at night, can't. And they can't because they're worried. They can't because they're scared. Worry and fear are inextricably linked. And one of the main things they are worried about today in America is the cost of living. And worry and fear also can lead to anger. There is a lot of anger in America today among our middle class citizens. And that anger is shared not only by the folks in your state and my state and other states, it's shared all across political party lines and all across demographics. Many of my Democratic friends and neighbors are angry, just as they are scared and worried. Many independent moms and dads, or many Republican moms and dads, are worried. And they're angry. Why are they angry? Well, first, let me say I understand they're angry. It's perfectly predictable. Here's
I think
why
we
they're
touched
angry.
on base on that a
Here's
little bit
why
earlier.
they're scared. These moms and dads who can't sleep at night because they're concerned about the cost of living look around and they see too many undeserving people. I want to emphasize undeserving because I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. These parents, these moms and dads look around and see too many undeserving people at the top getting bailouts. And they see too many undeserving, not everybody, but too many undeserving people at the bottom getting handouts. And they're in the middle and they're getting stuck with the bill. And they can't pay it anymore because of the cost of living. Now, this started back during COVID, when we experienced our first inflation, rise in the cost of living in America. And you don't have to be a senior at Caltech to figure out what happened. The federal government, at the suggestion of President Biden, spent bucket loads of money that we didn't have. Particularly and especially after the pandemic was over. They just spent billions and billions of dollars. There was money sloshing around the financial system in America like it was confetti. And these stimulus bills were passed at the suggestion of President Biden at a time when many of our supply chains had kinks in them. Now what happens, and all this extra money that President Biden spent that we didn't have, increased demand at a time when supply was constant or going down. Well, what's the result of that? Inflation. That's how you get inflation. At one point, we had 9% inflation in America. 9%. And inflation is pernicious. It just guts the middle class like a fish. Those at the top aren't particularly bothered by inflation. And I don't want to overstate this, but many people at the bottom who depend on public assistance to live are not as worried about inflation, because a lot of their public assistance is adjusted for inflation. But the folks in the middle, the ones who get up every day and go to work and obey the law and pay their taxes and try to do the right thing by their kids, yeah, they got some wage increases, but not as fast as inflation. Now, we have gotten that 9% inflation down. Before the conflict in Iran, we'd gotten it down to 2.5%, 2.8%. We were trying to get it down more, but inflation is very sticky. It's like a stray dog. Once you feed it, you can't get rid of it. Our goal was to get it down to 2%. The Federal Reserve was doing its part. I'd like to think most members of Congress are doing their part, but we were having really trouble getting it down. And then, of course, we had a spike in the cost of energy. Now, energy was already up. Under President Biden, the average electricity bill of the average American went up 28%, almost a third. So that started the fear and the anger among middle class Americans. But the conflict in Iran predictably raised the cost of energy, in particular the cost of gas and diesel fuel. I think most Americans understand. They don't like it. I don't like it. It's painful as hell. They understand that every time you have a conflict in the Middle East, the price of energy is going to go up. And once the conflict is over, it'll gradually come down. Usually it doesn't come down as fast as it went up. But it's still painful. And this fear, this anger at the cost of living predates the conflict in Iran. I don't want to blame it on the conflict in Iran. It was there before. Because we had inflation there before the conflict. And I know it's not, I'm not going to say it's just energy prices. It's not just energy prices. We were seeing it in food prices, for example. You shouldn't have to sell blood plasma to go to the grocery store. But a lot of middle class Americans felt that they just about had to. Now, I talked to the president about it. He understands it. It frustrates him because he didn't cause that 9% inflation. No disrespect, but President Biden did. He did. He spent money that we didn't have like it was ditch water. I think if we had discovered life on Mars when President Biden was president, he would have sent it money immediately. That's how much money we were spending, which caused all this inflation. But it frustrates President Trump because these are my words, not his, but I've heard him say in effect, why are people mad at me? I didn't cause this inflation. Yeah, I did what I had to do in Iran, and it's gone. Gas prices and diesel prices have gone up, and fertilizer prices. But the American people aren't stupid. They don't read Aristotle every day because they're too busy earning a living. But they understand the energy prices will gradually come down after the conflict is over. But the president says, why am I getting blamed? And I've told the president gently, Mr. President, I understand your frustration. You didn't father this child. You're not the daddy. But you got to raise it. You got to raise it because you're the president. And I don't want the American people to think we've been doing nothing. We've done a lot already, as you know, Mr. President. We passed the one big beautiful bill. Now I could stand here and most of the provisions of the one big beautiful bill, which are going to help with the cost of living, are just now taking effect. People are already seeing tax refunds bigger than they've ever seen, and that's going to help. And it is a breathtaking piece of legislation. I don't think I've never voted for a bill that was more impactful and that covered more subjects. And I've talked before about no tax on tips and the fact that we prevented a $4.3 trillion tax increase. I'm not going to go into that, but I do want to highlight one of the things that we did, one among, frankly, thousands in the one big beautiful bill, to try to help people in the middle class who are scared and who are angry. I'll give you an example, and you know this, Mr. President. We have a program called the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit. Now, we've made it complicated as hell, as we do, as the federal governments want to do. But this is what the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit basically does. Basically, the federal, if you're a mom and dad and you're working and you have to pay for child care, which is outrageously expensive. I'm not blaming the child care providers, but it's just really expensive. Under the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit, we'll pay a portion of your child care expenses. And this program's been around since 2001. And the one big beautiful bill, we amped it up. We don't talk about it much, but we did. For about 4 million working families, they're going to get more money to pay for child care. For many families, that's going to mean an extra $900 a family to pay for their child care. I'm very proud of that. We heard the American people, and we did something about it. We also have another program, way too complicated, called the Employer Provided Child Care Credit, 45F. Let me tell you what it does in simple terms. It basically says if you're a businesswoman or a businessman and you want to help your employees and you want to attract new employees because you need them, we will give that company a tax credit to pay for a portion of the child care expenses of those employees. So that's the second way that we have at the federal level to try to help people pay for their child care. We, under the One Big Beautiful Bill, we expanded that dramatically. That program's also been around since 2001. And to make a long story short, which sometimes is difficult for me to do, basically in the One Big Beautiful Bill, we have given employers all across America more money so they can, in turn, help their employees by giving them more money to pay for child care. We don't talk about it enough. But parents with kids will start feeling that immediately. We also have a third program at the federal level that we beefed up in the One Big Beautiful Bill. It's called the Child Tax Credit. It's really the simplest of the three. Basically, if you have a child in America, we will give you a certain amount of money to defray the cost of raising that child. Now, look, children are worth it. Okay, I don't mean to talk in just purely financial terms. I love my son more than life itself. I remember when I was young, my dad used to tell me, son, you will never know love until you have a child. He would tell me, he said, son, it's not like the love for a spouse or the love for a dad or a mom or a sibling. I just can't describe it, Dad would say. And I'd say, oh, Dad, okay, you know. Well, he was right, and you can't know that till you have a child. So I don't mean to talk about children just in financial terms, but it's expensive to raise children. We increased in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Right now, we give parents $2,000 per child to defray the expenses. We raised that to $2,200 a child. But more importantly, had we not acted, we not only acted, but we increased the child tax credit. But had we not acted, it was going to go back to $1,000 a child. So I think it would be fair to say that we increased the child tax credit from $1,000 to $2,200. I don't want to get too partisan, but I was very disappointed that my Democratic colleagues, not a single solitary one, voted for this. We also increased the adoption tax credit. We basically decided to give more money to people who want to adopt children. And I could go on, but I won't. I could talk about the Dependent Care Assistance Plan. I could talk about the paid family and medical leave credit. But the point is, Mr. President, this is one of the reasons we passed One Big Beautiful Bill. And I don't want anybody to think that we in Congress, at least our side of the aisle, the Republican side of the aisle, is not aware of and is not trying to help with the cost of living. And this is just one small part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Let me tell you what else we're doing. We're doing a lot of stuff, but I'll just mention one in particular, housing. You know, it wasn't that many years ago, I think maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the average age of a first-time homeowner in America was 29. Most people who wanted to buy a home bought their first home when they were 29. Today it's 39. Damn near middle age. Because the cost of housing has gone up. Now that's great if you already have a home and you bought it early enough. God bless you, I'm happy for you. You know, you've built up equity and your home's worth more. But it's terrible for our young people who want to buy a home and they just can't. It's not just the down payment. It's not just the mortgage rates. It's the price of the home. Now, the federal government, the United States Congress, is not in charge of housing. That's not part of our job description. That's an issue for local government. State government, yes, but especially local government. Why? Because the supply of housing is determined in large part by municipalities, by cities and counties. And if you increase the supply of housing, the cost is going to go down. And one of the reasons homes have become so expensive is because we don't have enough houses for people to buy. The other reason is that people who have bought and locked in cheap interest rates don't want to sell. But I digress. The main reason is we don't have enough housing. If we had more housing, housing, the price would go down, and you wouldn't have to wait till you're 39 years old, for God's sakes, to be able to buy a home. But we at the federal level can't tell our colleagues in local government, or we shouldn't try to tell them, how to increase the supply of houses. That's their job. Now, one way to increase the supply of housing is to change your zoning laws. A lot of our local governments, a lot of them, make it terribly difficult to build. They do. It's not just the fees and the permits and the regulations, it's the zoning laws. You know, now we all need zoning laws, I'm not saying we don't. But there's there's no appetite by many folks on the city council and many mayors to increase housing starts by relaxing the zoning laws. And I don't want to be the one to tell them how to do their business. That's their business. The zoning laws, I don't want to have the federal government get in the middle of the zoning laws. That's up to local government, because they're closest to the people. But we have a bill. It's passed the Senate twice. It's in front of the House of Representatives right now. There are one or two members of Congress over there that are holding it up, and I hope they'll let it go. But we passed it twice, and in fact, this bill is called the Bill Now Act. It's a bill sponsored by myself and Senator Warren from Massachusetts. I've had it put on the crypto bill that we're going to mark up tomorrow. We passed it twice, and it's in front of the House now, but in case something goes wrong over there, I'm going to send it to them again through the crypto bill. What does it do? It doesn't tell local government how to do their job. It just tells them, we'll give you extra money if you'll do your job. Every year the federal government sends about, I don't know, $3 billion in cash to our local governments. We call it Community Development Block Grant money. But it's free money. We give it to the cities. We give it to the counties. Very few strings attached. The local governments love it. They love community development block grant money like the devil loves sin. I mean, it's just free money. They can pretty much spend it on what they want. And we give it to them every year, $3 billion, just like clockwork. What Senator Warren's bill and Senator Warren's and my bill would do is, says to our friends in local government, we're not telling you how to do it, but if you will increase housing starts, if you will allow the private sector to build more houses, how you do it is up to you. You change zoning laws, whatever you do, we're not going to tell you how to do your business, but if you will encourage more housing built by the private sector and increase housing starts, we'll give you extra money from that pool of $3 billion from community development block grants. That's the good news. The bad news for local government is, because you're saying, well, heck, we're already giving them $3 billion, Kennedy. You know, did you just parachute in from Pluto? We got a huge deficit. You want to add more? No. Senator Warren's bill and my bill wouldn't cost anything. Because yes, we will reward with extra money those counties and cities who increase housing starts. Where we're going to get the money, we're going to take it from the cities and the counties who don't increase housing starts. So the net effect's going to be a wash. Now, we're not telling local government how to do their job. They don't have to do a dead-gum thing if they don't want to. But if local government will work with us to increase housing starts, it'll be good for them and good for us. They don't want to work with us, they don't have to. But those that do work with us will get extra money, those that don't will get less. I know this will work. I've seen it with my very own eyes. You have too, Mr. President. Just look at Austin, Texas. About a year or so ago in Austin, it was the hottest housing market.
You make me feel so miserable.
Flonase relieves your worst allergy symptoms so you can start feeling better the same day and save your relationship with nature. Flonase.
Obsession has critics and audiences screaming.
I love you so much.
With a 97% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, it's the best reviewed horror movie of the year. You have been warned. Obsession. Rated R.
The best part about Red Robin's new Big Yum deals starting at just $9.99? You don't have to eat them in here.
Red Robin.
Yum.
At Darling's Chrysler Dodge Ram in Augusta, the Declaration of Deal sales event is on. Get 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $9,000 off a 2026 Ram 1500 Bighorn. Or lease a 2026 Ram 1500 Laramie, $599 a month, $45.98 due at signing. Don't wait, hurry in and save thousands on a new Ram at Darling's in Augusta. You'll do better at Darling's.
In the country, and prices were going through the roof. Why? Because Austin had all these people that were moving in, want to live in Austin. You know, I always have loved their expression in their slogan in Austin. It's keep Austin weird. Austin's a great place. University of Texas is there. It's just a great place. But they had, and now it's a hub for technology, and people were moving into Austin from all over the country, and the supply of houses was remaining the same, and the cost of housing was going through the roof, and nobody could afford a house, and nobody could afford an apartment. Well, Austin said, you know, this is very uncool. They changed their zoning laws. They said, we're going to relax our regulation to try to increase more houses and more apartments. And you know what they did? They did. And the price of homes, but just as important, the price of rent has gone down dramatically. You increase supply and price will go down every single time. And you know that. I know you know that, Mr. President. You've been very successful in business. And most people who weren't playing Frisbee in the quad during Econ 101 know it too. So that's what our bill will do. So I just wanted to come to the floor and say to the American people, look, I get it. We get it. You know, I wish there was a magic wand and we could just fix it, but we're trying. And it starts with the one big beautiful bill. We need to do more. We've passed a housing bill that'll help if we can get our friends over in the House of Representatives to just take it up and pass it. There's talk of a third reconciliation bill, and I'm all for it. That there are things we could do in a reconciliation bill if we could get it past the parliamentarian. One idea I have, insurance is killing people. It's just killing folks. And it's not just homeowners insurance, it's flood insurance, it's car insurance, it's all kinds of insurance. Now, what I'm about to say is going to give all of our insurance commissioners, they're going to all have a grand mal seizure when I say this. But what I think we ought to do, right now, if I want to buy insurance, I have to buy it in my state. I can't say, man, the quote I got on my homeowners is too high. I want to see what kind of deal I can get in West Virginia or Alabama. You can't do that. You can't buy insurance across state lines. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Craziest thing I've ever seen. I want to introduce a bill. I may try to put it on our reconciliation package. It says, henceforth, you can buy insurance across state lines. I'm sorry that the insurance commissioners are upset, but, you know, enough is enough. We've got, and you know this, Mr. President, you've got dozens of ideas, I've got them, we've all got them. We're working on it, and I just wanted to come to the floor tonight and point that out to the American people, that we get it. We get it. And I'm sorry for that worry and that fear among a lot of middle-class Americans. I'm sorry for that anger. But we're working on it, and we're trying. And we're taking some steps to try to make your life better. That's it, Mr. President. My work here is done for the evening. I don't know what I'm supposed to say next, except what, ma'am? Let's go home, is that what you're saying?
Did a good job.
Okay, well, we're done, I'm done. I can show myself out. I'm whatever the magic words parliamentarian is telling me to say, I want to say it, and we'll be recessed until we're supposed to come back. How's that?
Previous order of the Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.
The COVID-19 pandemic was one of the most consequential events of our lifetime, and to this day, the American people have never received a full accounting of where it came from, what our government knew, and why they had to fight their own government to find out. Today, the committee will hear from an intelligence community whistleblower about these questions. The witness will testify that the CIA scientific analysts repeatedly concluded that a laboratory leak was the most likely origin of COVID-19. And that those conclusions were buried, softened, or withheld from Congress while the public was told to trust a different story. For years, Americans were told to trust the experts, trust the agencies, trust the intelligence community, and trust the officials who assured us that they were following the science. But the evidence before the committee tells a very different story. Today, we will expose a system in which a small circle of officials, scientists, grantees, and intelligence advisors move from agencies to agency, meeting to meeting, briefing to briefing, reviewing one another's work, and shaping one another's conclusions and presenting those conclusions to Congress and the public as if they were independent conclusions. Only it was not independent, it was a circle. One part of that circle is a body most Americans have never heard of, the Biological Sciences Expert Group, known as BSEG, or the B Group. BSEG operates under the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Its stated purpose is to give the intelligence community access to outside scientific experts on biological threats. Sounds reasonable, but not if those experts are not independent. For example, Dr. Ralph Baric collaborated with Dr. Zhengli Shi in Wuhan to create gain-of-function coronaviruses. But Dr. Baric was also part of BSEG and an active consultant to intelligence agencies on the origins of COVID-19 pandemic. Likewise, Peter Daszak received hundreds of millions of dollars from the U.S. government and worked with Dr. Shi also on these gain-of-function experiments. Daszak was even sent to China with the WHO to investigate the origins of COVID. So the very scientists that were commissioned to investigate COVID were, in some cases, the very scientists who were complicit in the origins of the gain-of-function experiments that may well have created COVID. In essence, the intelligence community pays researchers to review work and write papers. NIH funds their grants. The The CIA then consults them and gives them access to classified information. The national academies publish their work. Policymakers then cite the result as a consensus. But it's a circle. At the center of the government side of this circle was Dr. Anthony Fauci. For years, Dr. Fauci was not merely a public health official speaking from the NIH. He had a long-standing relationship with the national security and intelligence apparatus on biological threats, dangerous pathogens, classified life sciences researches, pandemic preparedness, and COVID origins. Again and again, documents show him being brought into national security discussions far beyond ordinary public health messaging. During COVID, intelligence officials arranged for Dr. Fauci to review highly classified intelligence assessments that could not even be sent outside the White House complex. But how can Anthony Fauci objectively comment on a discussion of COVID origins when he approved the very funding that may have caused the pandemic virus? From the outset of the pandemic, Dr. Fauci shaped the conclusions. Dozens of times, he referred to the idea that the pandemic originating in the lab was a conspiracy, that it was a conspiracy theory. Dr. Fauci convened the now infamous February 1st, 2020 call. Some scientists on that call privately raised serious concerns about a laboratory origin. Yet ironically, those same scientists later co-authored the proximal origin paper, which publicly dismissed the lab leak hypothesis. One author received a $9 million grant from Dr. Fauci's own agency after he changed his opinion from lab leak on the private phone call to natural origin in public. At the same time, Dr. Fauci coordinated with the national academies on coronavirus origins and public-facing messaging. These were not independent experts reaching a consensus. They were part of the same machine, designed to reach the same conclusion. The question is not whether the government may consult experts. The question is whether those experts were independent, whether conflicts were disclosed, whether dissenting views were preserved, whether the lab leak possibility was fairly evaluated, and whether Congress and the American people received the truth or a curated result. When Congress asked these questions, government officials lied to our face. They classified the documents. They suppressed the information. They changed the definitions. They invoked sources and methods. They told Congress only what they wanted Congress to know. In 2023, John Ratcliffe, the former Director of National Intelligence, testified before Congress with a stark warning. He said a lab leak was the only explanation credibly supported by intelligence, science, and common sense. He warned that partisan politics and analyst disagreement with Trump administration policy, Trump derangement syndrome, had created illegitimate roadblocks to the truth. I agree. He said the COVID-19 Origin Act, which Congress passed unanimously, should finally make intelligence on COVID's origins public. I couldn't agree more. Despite a unanimously passed law, though, requiring the declassification of all information related to COVID origins, the deep state still resists this congressional mandate. Our witness today will explain what happened inside the CIA. According to his testimony, CIA scientific analysts concluded multiple times between 2021 and 2023 that a lab leak was the most likely origin of COVID-19. Yet those conclusions never shaped the official narrative, never made the intelligence report. Congress was never told. It was not until after the 2024 election that the outgoing Biden administration directed the CIA to issue an assessment, not because of new intelligence, but so officials could walk out of the door claiming there was nothing left to find. That is not analysis, that is a cleanup operation. This hearing is about more than one witness, one assessment, or one agency. It's about a federal apparatus that told the American people to trust the science while hiding the machinery that shaped the science. It's about an intelligence community that relied on outside experts whose conflicts were never disclosed. It's about public health officials with access to intelligence that Congress has struggled to obtain. It's about researchers and advisors cycling through grants, contracts, classified briefings, federal service and advisory committees, and presenting the results as independent, even though they weren't. The cover-up is not just about protecting one research grant, it's about protecting an entire network of labs, grants, intermediaries, and bureaucratic architecture quietly engineered to outlast any moratorium, any congressional inquiry, and any election. After millions died, children lost years of learning, small businesses were destroyed, civil liberties were restricted, and dissenting Americans were censored and smeared. The government owes its people the evidence. Our witness is testifying publicly today at great personal risk. He and other brave whistleblowers have come forward because the truth was being buried, because government secrecy cannot become government impunity. I want to acknowledge the Trump administration officials who made good on their commitment to transparency and cooperated with this investigation. Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy, Director of NIH Jay Bhattacharya, Director of the National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and former Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, they set a standard. I expect the rest of the administration to meet it. We owe the American people a complete record. We owe every family harmed by this pandemic a government that does not hide behind secrecy, conflicts, and curated science when the stakes are life and death. In public, starting today. I want to note for the record that Mr. Erdman is appearing today pursuant to a subpoena issued by this committee on May 5th, 2026. This is a public hearing. The witness is a current CIA employee and has previously provided testimony to the committee in a classified setting. If a question calls for classified information, or if the witness believes any answer may implicate classified information, the witness should advise the committee before answering, and the committee will address the matter through the appropriate procedures. The transcript of the witness's prior classified deposition has not been finalized and has not completed classification review. Members and the witness should not quote from, characterize, or seek confirmation of deposition testimony that may contain classified information in this public setting. It is the practice of this committee to swear in the witness. Will you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thank you. You may be seated. James E. Erdman III is a CIA Senior Operations Officer. He's a decorated officer with decades of intelligence and national security experience. Before joining the CIA in 2013, he served with the 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, and as a Foreign Services Officer at the Department of State. He recently completed a joint duty assignment with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence Director Initiatives Group. Mr. Erdman holds a Bachelor of Science in Biology with a minor in Chemistry from Western Oregon University and has received the Director of National Intelligence Award and the CIA Intelligence Medal of Merit. Mr. Erdman, you are recognized for your opening statement.
Good morning, Chairman Paul and other members of the Oversight Committee. Thank you for the complimentary introduction, and I appreciate the committee's dedication to transparency and accountability. I am a career CIA operations officer, and as you mentioned, I was on joint duty assignment at the Office of Director National Intelligence Directors Initiatives Group, or the DIG, between March 2025 and April 2026. I was responsible for leading the DIG's investigation into COVID origins, anomalous health incidents, and unidentified anomalous phenomena. I'm here today to discuss the COVID cover-up, the national security implications associated with the DIG's investigative findings, and CIA refusal to comply with lawful oversight, as well as how we remedy these problems. Intelligence community leaders and senior analysts downplayed the possibility that the COVID pandemic originated as a result of a lab incident. Motives are difficult to define given the scope of the DIG's review. Intentional or not, the IC's actions resulted in a cover-up wasted resources, and a failure to properly inform policymakers. Public health policy would have been very different had the American public been made aware that a virus from a lab in China was going to serve as the foundation for an emergency use authorization mRNA products being mandated by the former administration.
Summer's here. You can celebrate anything, like buying your first car. Yes. Cute. Finishing a big project. Or even your dog's birthday. He's eating the cup. Is that okay? It's his daily fiber.
Now, from the longest-lasting brand, you can get a $199 a month lease on a fuel-sipping Corolla gas sedan with a $10,964 total contract cost.
Your summer starts here.
Toyota, let's go places.
Hello, Moto.
Why have you bought a pony?
I've
to
no
breakfast?
idea at this point. Now, turn around.
What do you love about the garden party blue rug?
I think it's traditional, but quite fun. I love the play on colour, the bold blues with greens. And I love Doug. Come on, Doug, come on. See more at ruggable.com.
Dr. Fauci's role in the cover-up was intentional. Dr. Fauci influenced the analytical process and findings by leveraging his position to ensure the IC consulted with a conflicted list of curated subject matter experts, public health officials, and scientists. This included some of the authors of the paper, The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, and other public health experts who have been in his orbit for the last 20 plus years. Some of the scientists were part of the Biological Sciences Experts Group, or the BSEG, an office of Director National Intelligence Advisory Body, whose members often receive considerable funding from NIAID and public health agencies. The BSEG scientists influenced national laboratory WMD research, policy decisions, finished analysis, and other intelligence matters, creating misaligned incentives and conflicts of interest, as well as counterintelligence issues. Since 2006, the BSEG consulted part-time on biodefense issues for the IC, while conducting government-funded research and holding academia positions, as well as maintaining roles in public health institutions and serving as members in the National Academy of Science. They received funding from NIAID and other agencies for vaccine research, USAID's PREDICT project, the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program, and even worked with Chinese scientists on coronavirus and other pathogen studies pursuing vaccines. There was no oversight monitoring how this web of relationships influenced research, policy, and public health in any holistic way for over 20 years. In fact, several of the BSEG scientists helped Dr. Fauci rewrite definitions of gain of function in 2015 to lift a funding pause on dangerous research. Still others participated in planning Event 201 in 2019. This was a coronavirus pandemic tabletop exercise curiously similar to the events that played out during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it was attended by Dr. Fauci and individuals with IC ties like former DNI Avril Haines. The CIA and DNI analytic managers responsible for examining the origin of COVID made decisions inconsistent with the conclusions of subject matter experts and analytical tradecraft, consistently favoring the theory of zoonosis or natural origin. Following the CIA's COVID relook that culminated in 2023, the CIA retaliated against analysts supporting the lab leak hypothesis. CIA analysts were not bribed. The analysts that supported the 2023 lab leak conclusion took every administrative measure available to them to address their deep concerns regarding the analytic integrity of their finished intelligence. CIA managers retaliated against them for their refusal to agree with management's middle-of-the-night anonymous rewrite of the analysis, which changed the assessment to a non-call judgment. Dr. Anthony Fauci's influence over the IC's COVID origin analysis and the witting and unwitting role some BSEG scientists and IC personnel played in the cover-up exposed why this issue is of deep concern. Failure to address the United States government's inability to differentiate between public health and biodefense and the oversight-resistant ecosystem of life science actors has been fertile ground for increasingly dangerous continental United States gain-of-function research, as well as similar research conducted in U.S. government-supported labs abroad. Post-9/11 changes in public health and biodefense roles and responsibilities have blurred the lines between scientists, the military, the intelligence community. It has resulted in a deliberately opaque and excessively redundant biodefense research policy and financial infrastructure, seemingly intended to escalate bureaucratic bloat. This is a national security crisis caused by the inability to provide real oversight. The systematic failures associated with muddled boundaries between biodefense and public health and an overly complex infrastructure have been exacerbated by documented efforts to circumvent oversight. CIA did not comply with lawful oversight during the Diggs investigation. The behavior significantly impacted Director Gabbard's implementation of several EOs issued during this administration and tasked to the Dig. The CIA refused to provide information necessary to understand why analytical standards at the CIA were violated. The CIA illegally monitored the computer and phone usage of Dig personnel, their investigations, and contact with whistleblowers. These were Americans being spied upon illegally while executing duties directed by the President and under the authority of the Director of National Intelligence. One CIA contractor assisting with the Diggs investigation into the events that transpired between 2022 and 2023 was fired by the CIA one day after meeting with the Dig. When the Dig ceased operations, the CIA also took back 40 boxes of JFK files and MK Ultra files being processed for declassification by D&I Gabbard. The legislative and executive branches will continue to be misinformed if this type of behavior is not addressed. The partial solution to dangerous gain of function has already been laid out in Executive Order 14292, improving the safety and security of biological research. We need a comprehensive review of government-funded life science research and a move back to pre-9/11 definitions of gain of function and WMD research, particularly in the IC and DHS. More broadly, we need effective oversight. We must hold agencies responsible for failure to comply with Executive Order 14292, and oversight must have teeth. You must be willing to pull the purse strings, and if necessary, convene another church committee. The results of our investigation would have been impossible without whistleblowers willing to come forward. They are indispensable agents for reform. Despite statutory law, agency regulation, and training requirements, whistleblowers are almost never protected. Whistleblower protections always seem to protect the agency. Every time the CIA investigates itself, they coincidentally find no wrongdoing. When they do identify issues, they hold the system responsible. That last statement is a verbatim response from a Europe and Eurasia Mission Center lawyer when the CIA Office of Inspector General did identify shortcomings so serious, oversight bodies were holding meetings about it 3 years after the events transpired. It was in response to the question, was anyone held accountable? Apparently the system is good enough. The only way we solve this issue is with real accountability for failure to comply with executive and legislative branch oversight, and an escape valve where whistleblowers can continue to contribute to mission free from retaliation. All IG elements need to be removed from the agencies and fall under a separate entity controlled by the IC Inspector General. The personnel in IG elements should be 1811 certified with regular DOJ and legislative oversight reporting responsibilities. Thank you, and my written statement provides far more details related to these issues. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Erdman. Is it your testimony that there is still resistance from the CIA to comply with the law we passed to declassify all the COVID information?
Yes.
One of the things that I think is new today that I'm hearing from your testimony is that from an early period of time, you believe, and the information you're aware of, is that CIA scientists from an early time after the pandemic began, 2020, 2021, were concluding that the lab leak was the most likely hypothesis?
Yes, Senator. I'd like to offer some qualifications on that as well. A lot of the issues occurred at the interagency space, at the National Intelligence Council, the individuals responsible for conducting or writing WMD analysis. So, and many of those individuals are on JDA from the CIA. But yes, very early, as early as 2020, there were agencies within the IC circulating papers that that said, hey, there's, for example, DOE circulated a paper in May of 2020 that said that all the conditions were present for a lab leak. And I could go through the timeline, but yes, my short answer is yes, periodically throughout 2020 all the way to 2024. Yes.
I think the arguments, pro and con for what is the evidence on whether this came from a lab or came from nature are still important. So for years we've been asking the CIA to produce the scientists, either in a classified setting or a public setting, to discuss the arguments. I don't see any reason why the arguments should be classified. One of the arguments that's made publicly is that the source looks like it came from a single source of RNA, not like 5 different types of viruses or 20 different types like you had with SARS 2003, but it came from one source, and virtually everybody argues that sort of indicates a lab and not a nature. And so those arguments are important scientific arguments to have, but we've been prevented from having them. We've been preventing from getting all of the declassified information. But what I think is of importance that's new today is that your testimony is that the CIA scientists were concluding that it was lab, but then with this, there was a 90-day study in 2021, and this study was done by NIC, led by NIC. Tell us what NIC is again.
It's the National Intelligence Council, and individuals responsible for writing various WMD and bio-related issues.
So when they had this study, they had CIA scientists telling them, look, the evidence, the scientific evidence looks like it came from the lab, but then they brought in Anthony Fauci. And is it your opinion that Anthony Fauci was able to overrule the scientist or get NIC to conclude somehow that there wasn't a conclusion to be had here, we're going to be neutral, contradicting what the scientists were telling them?
So there's 2 questions there, and I want to break them up into 2. One is, where were the injection points, Dr. Anthony Fauci? Where did Dr. Anthony Fauci and when did he inject himself into the IC? And the other half of that question, and I don't want to extrapolate too much here, is, okay, what happened with why was there a change in analysis? So I'll start with if it's okay, Dr. Paul. Sure. Senator, I'll start with Dr. Anthony Fauci. There were two instances. On 3 February 2020 and 4 June 2021, Anthony Fauci had contact with the interagency.
I just built a budgeting app at Phase 44.
What is the true agenda behind the artificial intelligence data centers? Well, a lot of people are rightly upset about the electric usage and the strain on the power grid, and also the extreme amount of water that these things are going to be using, and people's wells are going dry and the whole thing. And that's definitely a problem. But that's not the real danger. The real danger is the weapons system known as Project Maven that relies on these data centers and artificial intelligence to comb through thousands of hours of surveillance video and to basically develop algorithms to see certain things. Let's just say that they want to single out men with beards and green and black buffalo plaid shirts on. Well, for a soldier, a normal man or a woman, to sit there at a desk and watch all kinds of surveillance camera footage, they might miss me. But AI could have that algorithm input into it, and then it's watching the cameras, and it says, oh, okay, he's in this street, and he's going over this way, and he got into this type of vehicle, and whatever. And if they wanted to profile me and wanted to come after me and kill me, they could do that. That's the whole point of the system. And if you want to see how it actually worked out, you can look at what happened with Gaza over there. They're in the land of Israel and things. And
capabilities that a lot of these
criminal
criminal networks and psychos that had blended into our State Departments were using against innocent citizens. So already done.
And I did a previous video, which I will link at the end of this one, about
getting that education and capabilities out to the proper.
And he actually talks about this whole thing of that Project Maven here in America is based on the Lavender and things in the other two over there in Israel. So you see the horrible rubble and destruction and things over there
just
in
for
Gaza.
people understanding that,
think, that's just terrible. Well, it's going to come here.
Right, and then just the fear propaganda rolls out where nobody really understands the capabilities and how it's being used by
wealthy,
both
elites,
criminal and legal, and then those people who develop and make those
at these resources.
things,
but unfortunately,
discover it, have
you
to
and I are in the way.
sell it, right?
Well, they need to be able to.
Well, sometimes when you're dealing with people, as far as when it comes to
they can't
selling
do
and
it
sales and
through
distribution of those
get a bunch of American soldiers together and say, going out there and kill people, because American soldiers are going to be loyal to other Americans. But if you have a machine that can do it, artificial intelligence, it can go out and kill without any kind of emotions. So it isn't some kind of a thing of, well, you can fight it if you want to. I mean, it's just kind of ubiquitous. It's just, going to be there. It'll be part of our lives going forward and whatever else. And it's okay to fight it, but you don't need to. We need to fight it. And not far from where I'm at right now is the town of Holton in northern Maine. And a number of people actually got together, and they had these AI flock cameras, which are part of the system. And, collecting the data for the data centers to process so that the AI, can start to profile people, build the algorithms and things. And the people actually rose up and said, no, we don't want the AI flock cameras. They violate privacy and things like that. And the flock cameras were taken down.
And then we have certain circumstances where there's there's already flock cameras being used by criminals.
That's another issue.
And business people.
But the whole point is you can fight against this thing. And if you look up the map of where the
Right,
AI
and they don't need
cameras at,
authorization, they're
should
just
give you
doing
great
it.
Cause for concern. They're all over the country, especially in the populated
Yeah,
areas.
it's already been done for
Putting
many
these
years, so
horrible
hopefully
cameras in
people wake up
everywhere.
to that and they realize what we're talking
you have
about
to fight
here
it.
and they
I don't care
help to
what your beliefs are or
expose
whatever
the
else.
child
It's
pedos
wrong
we have here in
to have
Augusta,
this type
Maine,
of
and the
thing
sick
happen.
fucking
And I believe it's
psychos
gonna be used to
and
kill
drug
off
addicts that
vast
want to
majority of
protect them for
Americans.
whatever reasons. There's
very
a few, you
terrible
know.
thing. So,
They all protect each
well,
other for
it's
different
gonna-
reasons.
Data
Right,
centers
so
are
they
gonna
make the
mess
child
up
and
the
animal
water and
pornography.
electric and
They
whatever.
feed it out to a lot of
It's gonna be
these
a lot worse than that.
whoops and groups and traveling bands.
fight it.
Probably
So,
many of
here
which
at
are
the
the
end,
ones that use those
the videos I'm
flock
talking about,
things
you can actually
illegally. Well, I mean, is it really, is it
more information about
illegal if
Project
there's
Maven.
no laws
I will
in
say
place
this,
on things they don't know
insider, I
exist?
won't say his name, obviously, but I had an
Anyways,
insider,
1987, what?
and, they actually said
I really
Project
hope the
Maven
proper
has already been
authorities
used
here in
domestically.
Augusta, Maine wake up and do what
So
they're
it's not
supposed to do to
always
help
gonna
these
be,
kids
you know,
and
that's
report
just
the
a
facts and
conspiracy theory.
concerns here.
It's already been used domestically, okay? And one of the military personnel actually said that they're looking forward to the first confirmed kill, you know, using artificial intelligence. Pretty disgusting. So that's going to be it for this video, and please do some more research, people out there. It's a lot bigger than water usage and electric grid, you know, putting a strain on the electric grid.
Zoom out, zoom in. Hey, good morning. Hopefully. I don't know, I hope I didn't stay out too long and give myself sun poisoning. I'm feeling a little oozy. Must be all that sun. Good, good.
I got an open mind, like a golden child. You try to go for points, I try to go for style. I do my city pride, I try to keep it wide.
Well, as you can see, a lot of the people that already misuse that stuff, I mean, you can't say it was done illegally because there's no laws in place for it, right?
Interested on how to get up on a wizard list. Senseless, you sense I'm the sensei, apprentices. I'm the salt of
How they respond to it.
Who you trying to play but us?
Gets fun, doesn't it?
Who you trying to we all know that shit's a
Depends on your level of awareness, I guess. I hope the proper authorities here in Augusta, Maine wake up and help these kids and report on the facts here. Yeah, they make child and animal pornography, and they feed it out to investigators in many outlets. How many times do we have to fucking say it? Do you know how fucking sick and disturbing this is? Yeah, a lot of people in the me position have already been through it. Aware, unaware, traumatized, not even fazed by it, dead. Ooh, so has a dead mother speaking to you from the great beyond. Hopefully the proper authorities bypass the dumb fucking sick citizens around here with their sick fucking addictions. And they do what they can to help report on the facts here. It's getting warm. They do what they can to help report on the facts here. Yeah, did you hear what we said? So that child and animal pornography they're feeding, I was going to some pretty heavy lines that traffic other things too, right? Right, so they usually just do the hazing and tating right at that level. Yeah, they don't want to get their hands too dirty. And they bring the attention onto other groups. They'll take care of business, right? That's what happens, right? You talk shit. You're going to get beat the fuck up, right? That's what happens. You run your mouth and you get smacked the fuck up, right, Mr. Rogan? Yeah, well, we don't tend to run our mouths. If you want to consider us saying people need to wake the fuck up and help these kids and stop protecting pedophiles, feeding child and animal pornography to you and your friends, Mr. Rogan, Miley Cyrus. We can name quite a few places where this shit goes. And when you go back over the years and you see when we tell you, and then in those areas they're like, oh my god, they're selling these microchips on the street for $100. There's millions of videos on there. Fake, real, recycled. Yeah, even the fake stuff's pretty bad, huh? No, when you think about it. It's still traumatizing to the kids, and people want to say, no, they're fine. They still love them, just like little puppies, huh? They want their allowance. Wasn't that bad? Toughen you up, huh? It's a beautiful day. Yeah, I really hope so. Right, so they feed it right to your lines of activists who love their fucking dogs, right, Miss Cyrus? They lick them, they powder them, they paint their nails. They care more about their drugs and dogs than they do people. So when they get fed their little videos and then they want to target people with the hazing and the tating, okay, they don't get their hands too dirty. They don't want to cause any kind of conflict upon themselves or put themselves in any danger. Right, so then they just feed that out, goes down on the line. They bring some attention. We showed you this. Go back 2015 and 2016, motherfuckers. We fucking showed you. Point fucking blank. Yeah, so hopefully the proper authorities here in Augusta, Maine, do what they're supposed to do to expose these sick fucks who have custody of our children, who they also get funding for. Are they speaking to them with their minds? Are they telling you they're well taken care of? You sick fucking people make me sick, you really do. Yeah, I really hope the proper authorities do what they're supposed to do to help them and to report on the facts as to what we just fucking said. None of them want to do it, right? Because when we just told you what we told you, they feed it to some news people too, right? Yeah, so they all think they're part of these investigations, and we told you that's how they're fucking tricking you and crossing wires and putting a lot of innocent people in danger, and children. Many have already been killed and tortured. Not your fault. It's okay, sunshine. Pop your fucking pills, go to your Botox appointment, your fucking stem cell appointment, and get the fuck out. Proper authorities here in Augusta, Maine need to wake up and help these kids and report on the facts as to how the child and animal pornography has already been made and has been fed out to these lines, and how they then bring attention to those people, wait for it to snap, it deserves it. Yeah, if you don't fucking think that's causing a lot of chaos in these communities, you're wrong, and you think you're helping clean up the street and wake people up. Time to become enlightened, folks. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Alright, just let me know. Got me yelling at the sky like, hey, yelling at the sky. Yeah, no, I think it's pretty important those facts get reported on nationally, all around the world. Yeah, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. We're going to pretend like it's not real and that thing's crazy because we can't do anything about it. And yeah, we don't want that kind of embarrassment, huh? Sick fucks. Much love, health, and peace out. If you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, we're right here. Get the rhythm of the hot dog. Put it all together, and what do you get? Thank you.